Seems to be taking longer than. Oh, there we go. Hello, everyone. Of course, when I start to say that, it pops in.
Mhm.
Okay, if you can hear me, please type in the chat and then we can get started. I know some of you are here because I can see that from the attendee. People are coming in now. So if you can type in the chat, just say hello, and then we can get started. There's always that delay. This is the one thing I don't like about Webinar Jam. It's the delay between the time I say it and the time they hear it. There's Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Lori, Melanie, Christina. Okay, we got action. We got people. All right. So, hi, Janet, Carrie, Maureen, lots of people. Okay, great. So, welcome tonight. This is a little different topic. Hello, Teresa. Than we normally have, but I think it's a really good one, and I think you're going to find that it has relevance to what you're doing. Hello, Linda Pierce. Hello. I know who that is. Tanya and Jennifer. All right. Okay. So this came about partially because I know some of you know this because I posted it in my Facebook group and I think I sent an email out about it. But, I decided to try TikTok back in September and I took this course. And this course was get 1,000 followers in 30 days. So on TikTok, in order to do advertising or other things that you might want to do, you need 1,000 followers before you can even put in a link to your website or whatever. And I thought, well, that's much better than Instagram, which is 10,000. So I decided to give it a try. And I had to post just a whack of TikToks. I kind of screwed up what they said to do, but not in a major way. And needless to say, I didn't get 1,000 followers. And then I have them now because I went around boosting the posts until I got them. But in the process of what I was being told to do, they said you should start following your colleagues. So I'm Googling around. I'm not Googling, TikToking around. I stumbled upon Lisa, who I've known for 15 years. She was a student at CSNN, and I was teaching there at the time. And I saw that she had, at the time, 160,000 followers. Now she has over 200,000 followers. And I'm like, hokey smokes. Anyway, so I thought, you know what? My goal originally was I'll learn how to do this and then I'll tell you guys what I've learned. And then I thought, you know what? I don't think I've learned enough. So I'll invite somebody who's actually done what you're supposed to do and had a success that not all, I looked up a lot of holistic nutritionists, even well-known ones, and there's only one other one that's I know of. There's quite a few health coaches in the U.S. with a similar, story to tell. But in terms of the holistic nutritionist that you might know, there's only a couple. She's one, and there's one other person, Andrea Donsky, if you know who Andrea Donsky is. Anyway, so then I thought, well, you know what? Let's just go a little further with this, and let's tell the whole story. So I contacted Lisa. She said she'd be happy to do this, and she started telling me her whole story, and I thought, okay, the whole story is very interesting. So one of the reasons that I wanted to do this, and this is what I wrote in the email, is that, the trajectory that we have to go on in order to have success in this business is not simple. It's not a straight line. And we often find ourselves doing a lot of different things. And everybody's story that I know who's reached a certain level of success has that same kind of pathway. So hearing it and seeing what happened, I hope will inspire, give you hope. And, Lisa's just coming like everybody else. She went to CSNN, the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, for those who don't know what that is. She, came out her front door after she was finished and graduated, and she was, okay, now what? So we're going to talk about that. Prior to that, so her interest came from, she worked for Genuine Health. If you know Genuine Health, it's the company that makes Greens Plus and a bunch of other really cool products. And she had been working there in various departments, including, sales and marketing and customer service. And it was her interest in talking with people that led her to study holistic nutrition, because she liked talking to the people. She just didn't like customer service. So this is how she ended up being seeking, her holistic nutritionist designation. And so the first question I'm going to ask Lisa is, so you finish your training at CSNN and you walk out the door, what did you think was going to happen? What did you think your life was going to be, and what was going to happen?
Well, there's two big things. The first one is, like most new graduates, I had a full awareness of how much more there was to learn. I think CSNN does a really good job at teaching you so much that you now are like kind of through the forest and you can see how much more there is to learn. And I think a good nutritionist fully respects how much they don't know. And so I was kind of like deer in headlights of like, wow, there's so much more I need to learn. I had a bit of privilege where I had been working in health shows, and I was in the industry. And so it had enough Q&A from random people that I like, okay, I have a solid understanding of how to answer most questions, at least. Like, that came from my experience in my work. But I really had no idea what to do, and was very naive at how easy it was going to be. And so I really wanted to be a holistic nutritionist. I knew that as soon as before, when I went into school, I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to actually practice doing. By 1 month in, the first course with Lorene, I was like, I want to do this. And so the rest of the schooling was like, okay, I want to learn as much as I can so I can do this for a living. But I had no idea how to start a business. I had no idea what it was going to entail. And I was incredibly naive to the speed the path forward was going to take. And with that comes my stubbornness. The reason I'm still in business is that I just kept trying. And so I graduated in the fall of 2007 in Toronto, and I quit my job and moved to the West Coast in the fall of 2008. And I opened my first office in January 2009. And so today, we're 13 years later. So please, when you hear about all the different things that are happening in my life, please keep in mind that I've been working for 13 years, and it didn't take 13 years to find balance. It took like 3 to 5, but it was 3 to 5 of a lot of hard work, and then a bunch of learning and work moving forward after that.
Now, again, this is just a funny aside, but I think it's relevant. Why did you leave Toronto?
There's two big realizations. In my neighborhood, there were 6 holistic nutritionists all trying to make a living. And I kept being sent to Kelowna area, the Okanagan Valley in BC, and for work. And every time I went out there, there's like no holistic nutritionist, but there's this really big interest in the philosophy of holistic nutrition. So part of it was, I don't think I'm going to be able to make a living in the city. I need to move. And the second part is my long-term boyfriend, who I thought I was going to spend my life with, broke up with me 2 days after my board exam. And so I suddenly had this, like, I can do anything and go anywhere after I dealt with the initial shock. And I didn't want to get stuck in Toronto. I was 31 and I knew I didn't want to live my life in Toronto. And I could see that all it would take is another relationship. And I'm here. I almost got stuck. And so I just kind of took the moment of sheer desperation and exhaustion and sadness and said, let's start a new life, and moved out here.
And the reason I'm pointing this out or bringing this up is because this is a consideration. Okay. So people who, and I've had this with other colleagues who have been in smaller communities, have often done better than those in large urban settings. That being said, we mentioned Andrea Donsky just a minute ago. She's Toronto based, but she came with a business background. She had a business background, that's what she was doing prior to being in CSNN, and therefore she knew what to do. She had contacts in various different companies in the food industry and stuff like that. And again, if you're going to be in a big urban setting, often having connections to different corporations and companies. Now, yes, Lisa had Genuine Health, but that's just one company. And when you're trying to build a business, there isn't necessarily the alignment that you need for the business you want to have. There's certainly an alignment for getting work with them, because I believe you continued to work with Genuine Health in some capacity after you moved to Kelowna. So what was that work like?
So I didn't for the first few years. Well, I did a bit of like consulting work of my old job. They needed some stuff filled in and I needed money. And then a couple years in, they were looking for a sales rep in Kelowna. And one of my favorite people I worked with was asking me, I want to hire you and you can work with my other favorite person from the company. Like the two people I would love to work with, but a job I hated with an absolute passion. I did it for a year already. And the idea of taking this job was making me nauseous, but I was 2 years into being a nutritionist. I was broke as you wouldn't believe. I was struggling every month to keep my head above water. And I knew I wouldn't do this again. I wouldn't start over. And so I first said no. I said no to the job. I said I have put too much in to walk away at this point for a job I know I don't love. And so he came back with more money and less time. Let me pay you more for 4 days a week. I was like, how do I say no to this? So I said, okay, I need to think. And so I sat with it again. And then I walked into a grocery store and my stomach turned at the idea of doing the job. So I knew I couldn't do it. And I also knew that I couldn't. My boyfriend at the time was saying, oh, just take it for a year, take some pressure off. But to start this process again, I wasn't going to do it. And so I said no, really as politely as I could. And he said, well, that's great because I found somebody that's perfect, but she's from a different industry. Will you train her? And I said, yes. And then she's probably going to need somebody to do her trainings for her for at least a few years because she's brand spanking new to this industry. And I was like, okay. And he's like, because I see that that's what you'd rather be doing, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to be doing. And so that just turned into a few different things. And then one year, their main speaker, his wife got diagnosed with a terminal illness, and he had to walk out of all of his touring. And so at the time I was using public talks wherever I could get it. To promote my business. I'd done hundreds of talks at this point. I was 3 or 4 years in. And so when I got the call saying, would you be the keynote speaker at the Vancouver Health Show? I could jump at it and say, yeah, I can be the keynote speaker at the Vancouver Health Show. It was scary, but at least I knew I had the chops to do it. And so then I became, for a few years, one of their touring speakers. I was also a touring speaker for Flora, and I stayed with Flora for a long time. And currently I'm an educator for Tallgrass.
So you're also trying to have your practice at this time. And how is that going? So is the speaking engagements, so first of all, before we get into that, what type of, you said you had done any talk you can find. Give us a range of what types of talk, because this is where others are going to need to start too, yeah. Right?
So I had this little system set up that I said yes to pretty much any talk. And then I came with a clipboard and a piece of paper, and it went around every group, and I gathered names for my newsletter. And so those people from those early talks are still rabid fans, regular clients. And sometimes they pop out 8 to 10 years later that they're like, oh, I've been following you since you did this talk. I'm like, I did that talk in 2010. So I did health shows, of course, but I did rotaries, libraries, business groups that because they would always have like a 15-minute talk, and I would come in and do the 15-minute talk. At most health food stores would bring me in to do something. Anything. Anytime somebody said, hey, I hear you'll give a talk. I've given talks to maids and workers at hotels because they wanted to do a wellness talk. I'm like, yeah, sure. Sounds great. And so that's where I racked up. Like I've done, the last count was 500, and that was 7 years ago. And I haven't done nearly as many talks in the last 7 years. So, but the first 5 I was doing 50 to 100, and I think my highest was 160 talks one year.
And so I'm going to assume that your message is that there's no such thing as a bad talk.
In the early days, yeah, I got my chops. I got the ability to stand up and talk about anything. I realized I love answering questions, which is still a part of my, I have a membership group, and asking me questions is part of my selling of it. Today, I'm very, very careful with what I say yes to because my time is limited. And then it was like, this is free advertisement. I just need to get in front of as many people as I can, and totally worthwhile at the time. Today, it's just a different story.
Yeah, and I think that's also part of the normal trajectory. So Christina is asking, what were the topics of your talks typically?
I had a folder with like notes from probably 50 different ideas, because sometimes they would give me the idea and I would create something for them. Or like I talked about blood sugar a lot. I talked about energy. I talked about immune system. But I would say if there was one that was the most popular, would be blood sugar or some kind of version of that, because it would have the biggest bang. It would open people's eyes to the effects of the food that they're eating, and they can walk away with a few really simple ideas that actually work. Then they would book in and say, I want more. That totally worked.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it allows you to bring in the cravings thing too, which also gets a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're doing all these talks and you're having a grand old time, and you were sending out a newsletter. What kind of newsletter was it? What were you putting in the newsletter? Was it just 3 little short things, or was it, one big article, or was it a recipe? Like, what was sort of the content like?
So email newsletters have changed. The style has changed a lot over 13 years. And so my early ones were looked like a newsletter, newspapery thing. So they would have like some main content and then maybe a sidebar. They were sad and pathetic. It would, like, any of you who are younger than 45 would see that and say, what did you send? And I called it my monthly-ish newsletter. So when I advertised it out, I was like, it goes out monthly-ish. And I probably eight a year maybe, and some years it was like 2 or 3. And I've been very good at almost weekly, so weekly-ish for the last 4 or 5 years. And now it's entirely a different format. Now it's like an email, like an actual, just all words, and it's really casual. It's as casual as my conversations on TikTok, and I find that the more conversational it sounds, the better that newsletter goes. So I read newsletters from people who are just nail this concept. And Tarzan K is my very favorite. Her ability to write a killer newsletter or killer email where she starts with a story, she wraps you into it, and then she sells you something, and you don't even feel like you were sold to. It's like, man, you're good at that. And then Kelly Deals. Nobody does a newsletter like Kelly Deals. And hers is Deals is DIELS, and she does feminist marketing. Very important concept of changing the way that we market. It's full of consent, and it's not manipulative. And she's also a really good writer. And so what I've started doing over the last 2 or 3 years is being very careful and curating the type of emails that I read from other people, so I can grow as a writer.
That's a very good suggestion. You have a shout out, Lisa, from Jocelyn.
Jocelyn! Is this the Jocelyn we went to school together?
Yes, it's saying,
oh my God,
Lisa, good to see you. I knew that as soon as I read that. I go, oh, it's Jocelyn. I know who that is.
We go way back.
So her question is, did you measure your responses in your talks? I have also done a lot of library and mummy groups, and I didn't get any patients out of them. She means clients. Oh no, wait, she went and got some.
Yeah, she's a homeopathic doctor. She can say patient. I measured it by how many people on my newsletter, on my email list. That's what mattered. And over the course of 13 years, it has been what matters. Just a month ago, I got somebody who joined my email list 10 years ago, and I've never seen them as a client. They've just been a raving fan with, like, in the background. I'd never even seen their name before. 1 year, when I launched my membership site, a woman who had seen me do a talk 8 years earlier bought a 3-appointment package for herself, bought a 3-appointment package for her husband, and was one of my first yearly members when I launched my membership site. And that's something you can't measure. And so that's why I was developing relationships with people and not worrying about how many clients came out of each one, because history has proved that you gotta stretch it. It's a long game, and you gotta really stretch it out.
Now, sorry, I only got blood sugar immune as your talk because Barb would like to know the newsletter suggestions. Blood
Oh, my
sugar immune.
newsletter stuff is really whatever is in my brain that day. So I'll sell my membership site once a week, and often if I can't think of anything to talk about, I go to my TikTok and said, okay, what are people watching? And then I just write something on that. People are just interested, and it doesn't have to be overly informative. Each email, just like a nugget or two, will keep people watching, will keep people reading. I wrote a newsletter or an email about an ode to my moving dolly because I had just moved and I was singing a song to it, and I turned that into health. I forget how. It was a very Tarzan K moment that came out of my head, and so like that was an email I got the most feedback on. Another one where I talked about how much I love talking about poop, that I got tons and tons of emails back on that one. So it's really whatever you're interested in matters more than what everybody else is interested in, because it'll be engaging.
Okay, and then the other thing, I think I misunderstood what Barb was asking.
Okay.
She wanted those names again. So Kelly Deals, Dieles.
Diels, no E. And she's just from the Lower Mainland. She's Canadian. She's fantastic.
Diles.
Yeah. And then Tarzan, like the Tarzan, at Kay. She's also Canadian. She's from the East Coast.
All right, there we go. Okay, so Janet's got a question about TikTok posts, but we'll postpone that one, Janet, and when we get into the TikTok talk. Okay, so you are doing all these talks. The reason I wanted to mention the newsletter, and basically what Melissa just said has a great value, because she's telling you about people she got as clients who signed up with her 8 years ago and hadn't purchased anything from it. You don't know who's on your list. Once you start building this list, you don't know who they are. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know why they may say yes now and not say yes. You don't know. So this is why what she's saying about the consistency of keep putting it out there. But I'm hoping you also took heart in what she also said when she, it was monthly sometimes. Ish.
Yeah. Now it's weekly-ish.
Now it's weekly-ish, but it was monthly-ish. So that should also give you some encouragement that you don't have to be from the get-go doing one every single week or anything that you may have heard elsewhere. You can do it monthly-ish. You don't have to be perfect in all of this. And I think what a lot of us start out, we want to do this, we're doing it, and then we fall off the wagon and we don't do it for a while, and we think, oh, there's no point.
I've never done anything perfectly. I've never done anything with, like, I'm proud of my weekly-ish success because that's the most consistent I've ever been. And still, like, half the months this year has been twice instead of 4 times. I love the philosophy of stay in what you can actually do and set that as a goal instead of what other people tell you. So like twice a week email, I'm never going to do that. So why put that as a goal? But almost every week, like three a month. Yeah, I can do that.
And that's a good point. That's a really good point. Okay, so you're doing your talks, you're doing your newsletter, you're building your practice. So we have to get to, is it 2015 for the book?
2015 was
okay. So tell us, between that and 2015, how many clients would you have been seeing? I know you briefly taught at the Kelowna CSNN branch while it was around. Mm-hmm. What was that business like before 2015?
So in 2012, I got hired at Inspire Health, an integrative cancer care center, for 2 days a week. And so I was a hired nutritionist, paid through a government program, if you can believe it, as a holistic nutritionist. Didn't last long. They had to bring in dietitians eventually, but we were all holistic nutritionists for the first 2 years. And so that was twice a week. And then I was touring with Genuine Health quite extensively for those 2 years. And then I had a 2-day-a-week practice that was probably at 75% full. And I was tired. I will never work like that again. Like in one November, I had 2 days off and bought myself a great pair of boots because of it. That was like, I bought them at the beginning of November, like, and they arrived at the end of November. But it was really steady. It was like, by 2012, I knew I'd still be in business by 2013. Even at 2011, it was like, okay, I can see there's longevity here. I'm not month to month, I'm quarter to quarter, or like I can see that my income is still going to be there a year from now. And so then my job at Inspire Health ended in 2014. And so then I was looking to replace that with my own business. And so that was like, there was a couple years of just building my client base up to rebalance that.
And I think that's also part of a typical trajectory where you are gradually, I know I went through the exact same thing, working my way out of things that I had been doing that really weren't my own business alone. Like teaching at CSNN, like doing recipe development work, things like that. And then my goal was always to leave those behind and be just with my own stuff. So that's not an abnormal thing. If you guys find yourself in that kind of position, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. You can and it might even be a day job that isn't even in the industry. You can transition yourself towards what you want to do. Okay, so we're into, and Jocelyn is saying, do you have slow months in client flow? I don't know if you mean currently, which we're going to get to, Jocelyn, or then.
The answer is yes to both. It ebbs and flows. Usually, I especially then, I was so tired that all my clients would cancel when I was really, really tired. So I had to start managing my energy so my clients didn't cancel. I even had a receptionist in one of my offices send me emails like, "You must be very tired. Everybody canceled. You have a free morning." And I was like, "I'm so tired." And still today, like the difference between a busy month and a slow month is closer than it used to be. But I'll still have slow months, but the busier months, I'm just really good at, I always hold 2 or 3 months of income, so I don't worry about those. And that allows me to take a month off most years too. I usually take July off. I didn't this year, but most years I do.
Excellent. All right. So we're honing in on to 2015. So I think we have to talk about the TED Talk first, right?
Yeah, that was... Yes, because a lot came out of that. So in the summer of 2015, I got an email that said, "Hey, you've been nominated to apply to do a TEDx talk," which was a huge dream of mine. That was like an ultimate goal that I'd done zero research to figure out because I didn't know my town had a TEDx. I didn't know there was an application process. I didn't know any of this until I get this magic email. I still remember driving home. I got it in my Kelowna office and I drove home that day still in a daze. That's what I remember about that email is the drive home. It was the most difficult experience of my life. It pushed my boundaries. It pushed my everything in the application process. Even though I had 500 talks under my belt at this point, this was really hard. It involved all of these videos that you had to submit to in the audition process. It was like a 3-stage audition process, and then you had to write it and practice it. And I'm a fly by the seat of my pants speaker, so to like hone in a 15-minute talk on any topic that I usually get to spend an hour talking about was really hard. So resistance was like my nasty friend that I was pushing off, even writing it. My talk got written the Tuesday before the Thursday dress rehearsal. And yeah, I had the bones already, and I had the topic and I had the bones, but like it came together on the Tuesday. I practiced it on the Wednesday, dress rehearsal Thursday, actual talk on the Friday, and my power was out when I came home from the dress rehearsal, and so I got 2 hours of sleep. So if I seem puffy and tired, because I was, but it was like actually walking on stage and doing the talk was an amazing experience. And then nobody really watched it. It wasn't this instant overnight success, because nothing in my life is an instant overnight success. It was 2019 that it took off. So 2015 was when it got recorded. And so 3.5 years later, in the summer of 2019, it went viral, and it has 560 some thousand views at this point. But Before that, it had like 10,000 views, and that took 3.5 years to get the first 10,000. And then I got 100,000 in the month of July. July is my big month. I have to remember that. I go viral in July. That's not because I've done that twice now.
No more vacations in July then.
And then, and so it went viral in July, and I got some like really interesting work from that video. And then in October of 2019, I got the most spectacular email of my life, which was from a publisher.
Hold on. Mm-hmm. Let's just quickly recap the TEDx thing, because I'm quite sure there's some questions about that. What happens if you are interested in doing a TEDx? Somebody has to nominate you. There are TEDx chapters.
That's just for that chapter. Every chapter has a different process.
Yep. Okay. So there's different chapters all over the place. Mm-hmm. And so I've heard that you have to be nominated in other chapters too, but maybe there's some that you don't. And then you have to go through an onerous process of the application. And then once you get to that pass, then you have fun. All right, so I just want them to understand.
And you can be fired up to the dress rehearsal. At the dress rehearsal, they can say, nope, not good enough, and you're out.
There you go. Okay, so I just wanted them to understand that, because I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. And one more question on this. What was your topic for the TEDx?
The gut-brain connection. And but before it went viral, I was actually applying for other TEDx's, because I'm like, I like the situation. This one's never going to go viral or never going to get big views. I need a new one with a catchier title. So thankfully I didn't have to, because I'm also not very good at follow through when it comes to something big like applying for a TEDx talk.
Okay, Melanie's asking, do you know how or why you went viral?
No idea, other than the topic suddenly became really popular. Other talks on the gut-brain connection have over 1 million views. So if my title was a little catchier, I bet I would have. I think I just took off with everybody else that was taking off about this. When the microbiome took off on YouTube, I think that's all it was.
And that's a very relevant piece too, because I can tell you what was going on in the gut world in 2015 and how little people understood or knew is in comparison in the last few years. Mm-hmm. So Janet's asking, is the dress rehearsal an audition?
No, but you're told without a shadow of a doubt that you can be pulled if you're not ready. So it's not quite. It's kind of. I kind of saw it as a last audition. I think it's a last resort that they'll pull someone, but they keep that ability open.
And Linda says, timing is everything, gut health, with some little clappy things. I think that's what those are. Okay, so we're now in 2019. Tell us about this wonderful thing that happened.
So in October of 2019, I wake up in the morning and I open up my emails, and I get a lot of spam. I don't know. I think my email just has been around for too long. And so I get a lot of people saying, hey, do you want to do this? And it just is ignorable. And then I get this email, and they had gone through my contact form on my website. So I was like, okay, this is a little legit. And it was a publisher asking me, do you want to write a book on undieting, which is the only topic I wanted to write about and had been thinking about for 6 months at that point of like, okay, I'm feeling a book stirring. Maybe I'll write it. I was calling the concept real life healthy eating. As soon as she said undieting, I'm like, yep, that's what I want to write about. And I did some Googling. I checked out her company name, and I was like, this is legit. And so I wrote back and said, yeah, I really would. And 3.5 months later, I had my first draft of my book in, and September 2020, so just under a year after that email, I had a book in my hand, which is really short. That's a really tight.
That is very short.
Schedule. Yeah.
Now, tell everybody what undieting is for those who don't know.
So I look at undieting. Undieting, I don't think is a properly defined term, but my version of undieting is tuning in and listening to your body and using that as your guide toward health. So using your cravings and your symptoms and what you like and don't like, and finding that as your way of balancing your overall all diet. So I'm not a high protein or high carb or high fat nutritionist. I'm a what does your body want kind of nutritionist.
And I think that's what most of us aspire to have for our clients as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know there are some who get caught up in I don't want to call them fad diets, but certain styles of eating.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the majority of us do adhere to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Jocelyn says, Garfield said, diet if die with a T. I think that means she means is die with a T. Trust a cat to know these things. But anyway, okay.
What I've heard from other holistic nutritionists is that my book is very holistic nutrition-y. And I wrote this more than 10 years after graduating. So I was glad to hear that, like, that kind of stuff stuck.
No, it is. It is. If we were going to pick a mantra, that would be the kind of, I would hope, what things we would like to instill in people. Okay, so you are now publishing the book.
Yeah.
What was, because we're working to the TikTok. Okay, we got to get to May of 2022 for TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay,
End of May.
We're now in 2019.
Well, 2020 if you want to get to my book published.
Okay, so it was published in 2020. Mm-hmm. What was your practice like with the book, without the book? What was basically
it was steady.
Going on?
It was nice and steady. My membership site had grown. And so it was, but between my membership site and my clients, it was easy to maintain my income to where I needed to be. I'm also a nutritionist for Nature's Fair. So they hire me to give free consults to their clients. So that's a nice steady paycheck plus a gift card of food. I get paid in food. It's fantastic. That I've done for 10 years. And then, and so everything else was just kind of icing on the cake. But my book got in stores and Target, didn't sell at all. Everything in my world is a long game. And so this was this great, exciting moment right in the height of the pandemic. So I couldn't do any book tours. I couldn't do even a book launch. I did what I could, which wasn't enough, and it didn't really sell. It's selling now, but it wasn't selling then. And so it was just kind of like, yay, and everything's just where it was. Like nothing really changed other than I had this book that I could use to help get on podcasts and stuff. But yeah, that's all. Okay, so we are now. The book does not create income. It creates, I don't know. It helps. It's a marketing tool and raving fans. It's a fancy business card. Yeah. Or a fancy brochure. It's a brochure that people actually want. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it really, when somebody comes to me and they've read my book, I know that they know what I do. So when they start pushing back, when their dieting brain starts asking for macros or a diet plan or something, I'm like, you've read my book, you know what I do. So I can push right back and just like help them out, undiet their brain. So I like the fact that people come to me really inside what I do. And I like, that's my favorite part of the book, is that when it's just an easier way to have clients now. Yeah. And we can't all have publishers. Email us and yeah. we can it's a big trajectory if you have to get a literary agent and do that you can do it, but you can also just publish your own if you're looking for it to be a marketing item, something that you have to show who you are, what you do. You can publish your own, so there's nothing to inhibit you from not having a book. And that's what I was planning on doing. So as this thought was simmering, I was also, my thought was I was going to self-publish it. It wasn't until a publisher offered to publish it for me. I was like, okay, sure. All right. So we are now up to May 2022. Mm-hmm. So what made you decide to try TikTok? Well, I've been hiring out my Instagram to this wonderful social media manager for a couple years because I hate Instagram like with a passion, and she's fantastic. So if you like my Instagram, it's not me. Maria's wonderful. And she had been pushing me just quietly to do more video. And she's like, I think you should be on YouTube. Like, you're a good speaker. This would be really good. And I was like, I don't want to hire an editor. And then the woman who cuts my hair, she was like, you need to be on TikTok. And I had been hearing this a lot. I was like, oh, and I just moved and to a whole new area. And I thought, well, why don't I refresh things and try this TikTok thing? And so my very first video went up on May 25th. And as of on June 30th, when I posted my first of a series, I had 60 followers. And then by July 30th, I had 100,000 followers.
And what was your series on?
So that first video was on chocolate cravings, and I had done in the month of June, I probably posted 6 or 7 videos, and they had all done decent, better than any other platform. I had 60 followers, but it was getting about 200 to 400 views per video. So like they were worth it, but I was kind of getting bored and not getting the dopamine rush that I really wanted. And so I was kind of like, And then I was sitting outside working, and I was like, oh, I should talk about chocolate cravings, mostly because I was craving chocolate in that moment. And I was like, this is a good topic. Why don't I just post this video? And that one did really well right away. It was the first couple of days had about 2,400 views, and I was like, oh, this is good. And my follower count doubled. I now had 120 followers. I'm like, wow, this is great. But it's like, I need to add serious zeros behind this. Like, how is that going to happen? And then my birthday was a couple days later, and that was the day it really took off. And I gained 30,000 views overnight and a few thousand followers. And when I was in the hundreds before, a few thousand is it's a big deal anyways. Yeah. And I remember waking up the next day and I was like, I have hundreds of comments to reply to. It was a little overwhelming. And so my next video wasn't until the 5th of July. And then I did a full series on cravings. There's about 25 videos in that. And those I had 6 or 7 go viral, about 500,000 views. And then over the last couple, my follower count really slowed down for a while. And then I started digestion series, and that's where I got my first 1 million view video. I have 2 now. And that brought me to the 200,000 mark. And I'm at 208.2, I think, as of this morning.
And so I think that, what would be, first of all, what is your best assessment of how easy or not easy it is to do a TikTok video?
What I love about TikTok is that it's the anti-Instagram, because I hate Instagram. I hate how polished it is. And anytime I did a video on Instagram, I felt like I looked my age. Like I felt like that. And there's nothing wrong with looking your age, but I just felt like haggard. Like every wrinkle and puffiness was like accentuated on this platform where everybody looks so gorgeous. And the TikTok filter is really kind to my face. I like that. And what I love about TikTok, it became really obvious in the first month of just kind of scrolling here and there, because I didn't like the platform at first. I didn't like watching video. And then I got to spend time with all these people who are really real, that they give good information. Like Andrea Donsky, you have fantastic content. I love what you do. If you want to check out a good TikToker, make sure you check out hers. And when you scroll through, you get like, the more real somebody is, the more unpolished, the better. Those are the videos that really do well. And so it makes me leave a video up that has, I'm building a house out. I'm living in an RV and building a house out the side of the door. So when there's a bug in the picture, people comment, but I just leave it. Most of the time I don't notice. If there's clanking, I just write, sorry, I'm building a house. Sorry for the clanking. And those videos do really, really well. And the ones that are the least polished, the more I just come on and like talk to you about something, the better they do. And the ones that if I'm out of practice and I'm a bit too polished, I'm a bit too nutritionist-y, they don't do that very well. And I've been tired I need some time, I need a break. And so I haven't been posting as much over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm noticing I'm getting very polished and not very conversationally, because I'm just out of practice. And so they're not doing as well. And I like that. I like that aspect of it, that it's just really, really real. And the holistic nutrition ideas are loved on the platform, at least from my experience.
And that's a really good point. Chris, I just wanted to point out, Andrea's here.
I know, that's why I commented, hey, Andrea, you made good comments. I was like,
she made a comment about earlier, and she said, thanks for the shout out. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't clue.
Yeah, Andrea, you popped up in my For You page really, really early. And so I was like, wow, you have a fantastic following, and I can see why, because your content's amazing. You're a great inspiration. Thank you so much for that.
So one of the reasons I wanted to a heavy one here. And Andrea, of course, would be an example of this. And this is the only reason why I decided to do it, is because it's no longer about silly videos. Mm-mm. There is lots of really good content that is very suitable, and the health segment for TikTok is the fastest growing. Mm-hmm. And even the demographic is changing, where it's more evenly split now, with people up to the ages of, I think, 55, between people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s is pretty evenly split, with the older 40 to 55 being one of the faster growing demographics. So there is a trajectory that is very suitable for many of us, no matter what age we're doing, or no matter what kind of clients we're seeking. All right. Yes, Andrea, please just put in how they follow you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got a couple questions here. Do you see a relationship between followers and new clients? Okay, so that's coming up, Anna. We'll give it one more second. We'll just answer this. How many minutes for each video in your video series, or a video in general?
So I joined TikTok in a really lucky time, because I'm very long-winded. And a year ago, apparently the algorithm loved the short, silly videos, like 15 seconds or 30 seconds. And I think I came in right at the moment where they changed their algorithm, and they like 3-minute videos, because almost all of my videos are 3 minutes. Anytime I tried to do a short one, first of all, it didn't do very well. And secondly, it was always like hard for me to do it. And so like I hit the 3-minute mark on 80% of my videos at least. And TikTok wants even longer. They're trying to compete with YouTube apparently. And so when you can upload 10-minute videos, they want you to. I haven't, because I don't want to be that long-winded. I don't want to edit a 10-minute video. I'm lazy. And so I do one video a day is the max that I'll do. I do 3 to 5 a week, really, because at first I was doing 7. I did a couple weeks of 7 every week, and then I wanted to take weekends off. And so then I did 5 quite consistently. And now I'm at, like, last week I did 1. This week I'll probably do 3 or 4. And then I'll take a huge chunk off through the winter, because I'm tired and want to sleep. And that's okay, because you need to, like, take care of yourself.
Exactly. So Christine is asking for Maria's contact info, your IG person, if you want to give that to her.
Can you message me directly, just because I don't know how many people she's taking, and so I can see if I can contact her. So if you send me a message, I'll then reach out to Maria, because she is amazing. I just don't know how many social media people she's taking on.
Okay. And Andrea says the key is posting good content, like Lisa said. Mm-hmm. And so this is, like, we don't, I don't know what people think is good content. I know what I think is good content. I know what I like to talk about. And so I experimented quite a bit doing different types of videos. Some were silly. I don't mean silly, but I just mean not particularly interesting per se. They amused me. Mind you, the one I did where I took a shot of the purslane that was growing in the cracks of the sidewalk, that actually got quite a few views. People like that one. But
you never know what takes off.
Exactly. So you have to kind of go at this with sort of an experimental mind and say, okay, I wonder if people are going to like this. I wonder if people are going to like that. And because they're so short, and literally, I have done some where I'm recording recipes that I've done. I would like to do more of those, but they are more work. And they're not fancy videos for cooking either. They're just literally the cell phone, and I have to do it in sections while my niece records it, because I can't see it while I'm doing it. And then she puts it together for me, but it's nothing fancy in any way, shape, or form. But the easy ones are, you just click on that phone on the, you put it on the stand, you click on it, and you just start talking. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of like Lisa, I kind of talk off the cuff. And so I might do 5 versions before I actually don't trip over my tongue. And even if sometimes when I do, I leave it in, like you said, I leave it in. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I trip over, it depends what I said when I tripped over my tongue. If I think it's amusing, I leave it in. Mm-hmm. But it's very, it's very real, is what I'm finding. And I'm like you, I did not like Instagram because it has to have this nice look to it that is beyond my skill level. And I don't really, it's interesting. And this is maybe the most interesting part for me was I don't have a lot to post on social. I never knew what to say on Instagram or Facebook. I don't have a lot to say, but the minute you put nutrition or food as a topic in front of my face, all of a sudden I go, oh, I can talk about this. I can talk about that. So it just gave me a different framework to work from. Linda Pierce is saying, in terms of trends, I've noticed a renewed interest in diabetes and gut health. If memory serves me, you have a lot of content on that already. I think she means you, Lisa. I don't think she means me.
And those videos have done well. My digestion series at the beginning, I was getting 10,000 views on every video. That's calmed down recently, but they're still like 4,000 or 5,000. And I don't usually hit diabetes specifically. I'll do insulin resistance and blood sugar imbalances, but those videos have been really well watched too. People really like it. What I've noticed is a lot of the people who come had never, like when I talked about cravings, they had never heard of the concept that your cravings should be listened to. And so they were just all in. And my super fans, the ones that became clients, would watch especially the summer in the cravings series, they would watch every video I posted and then book themselves in. And so it would be this amazing experience where they were quoting me back to me. And they're like, I knew they were on board. Like they were in for whatever we were doing. Once I started the digestion series, I got a lot more clients. Like the client numbers skyrocketed, but they didn't know me. They knew that, oh, you know how to help me with this problem. Great. And they just booked themselves in. So they haven't, like, they're not the super fun and dieting people, but I've had some really cool digestive puzzles to work out. So it's all, it really depends on the type of video, depends on how fast people will book, but also like even like the quality of that booking. I loved the people. Like I didn't get that many clients this summer, but man, those were fantastic conversations.
So this brings me back to Anna's question where she said, do you see a relationship between followers and new clients? And you might also want to address book sales too.
So the first thing that happened is my book sold out everywhere. And so for the first time, almost 2 years in, it was just like selling like hotcakes. And then Amazon US ran out of copies and I couldn't get them back in. So they just got them back in. So I lost a lot of book sales because in the time I was going the most viral was the time that Amazon US just didn't have any books, which is annoying, but it's how it is. It's the life with a publisher. And so the book sales were easy. And I just do this often or just talk about it. And that's a good step in. And the clients, and then when the clients come, they're fans, and so they're different. I don't get that bad fit that I used to get every once in a while. Most of people I would work with are wonderful fits, but every once in a while I get somebody who just Googled a nutritionist and I was their local one, and they come and sit and they're looking for something I don't do, and I don't get that misfit anymore.
Excellent. So Christina has a question. This has come up before. It came up with some of the members in my Facebook group where they were asked, when I mentioned I was doing TikToks, and they had brought the breach of privacy issues when downloading or using TikTok. It was on the news many years ago, so I always avoided it. My attitude, I don't have any expectations of privacy. I really don't. I don't with Facebook. I don't with, it is what it is. And I'm not saying there are any breaches. I'm just saying I don't put anything out there and there's nothing on there that is of anything that's going to harm me in any way should it get out. So that's kind of how I look at it. How do you look at it, Lisa?
A couple of years ago, you wouldn't have caught me. I wouldn't have been caught dead on TikTok because of that. That was a big issue of mine. And then I don't think Facebook and Instagram are any better. And if I'm willing to have them on my phones, I cut my mic and camera on those apps, but I use TikTok enough that I don't cut that one out. So yeah, it is. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know how much is propaganda against a non-American? Like how much of that was Meta, what was then just Facebook, trying to keep people away from this burgeoning platform, and how much is true. And I do think that there's breaches of privacy with all of these apps. So I'm kind of in a I don't care, it's working for me right now kind of state, to be totally frank. But I get why people are concerned. And I would then say be concerned with all the other ones too.
Yeah, that's basically my attitude is we don't know what's going on. So I don't post things I don't want out there. Mm-hmm. And I don't have information on there that, other than obviously my name, my email, that could be circulated some way in some fashion or whatever, which would not be good, but that's about it. But you can always change things. You can always get rid of things. It's not that big a deal, I don't think, at this time. All right. So Melanie's saying, curious if a Canadian TikTok, is your account only shown to Canadians or other areas too?
I think that my stuff is pushed to Canada more. Like I get a lot of, so my clients are probably at this point, I'm getting like 60% US and 40% Canadian, but my actual followers are 90% US. So I think that there is a bit of an extra push to Canadians for Canadian content. I do notice on my For You page, I get a lot of Canadian stuff. And it's kind of nice to have both Canadian and US clients. I keep my rates in Canadian, which it confuses the Americans, but then when they realize the exchange works in their favor, great. And then I stay affordable for Canadians that way. And that's one less thing for me to worry about.
Okay, so all in all, what tips would you have if people want to get started on TikTok? What tips would you have for them? Based on your experience?
Consider everything that you're doing as a nutritionist as the long game. So yeah, I went viral really fast on TikTok, but I had 13 years behind me that got me to the place where I could handle going viral on TikTok. Because it was scary at first. It was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then I'm like, but I've been doing this for a long time. I have confidence in what I'm saying. And I don't think I would have been there 10 years ago. I think that I would have just thrown a wrench or shut down the whole thing out of fear if this had happened to me 10 years ago. So I appreciate the experience that I've had to be able to get this moment where in a handful of months, I have a following, which I've been trying on all the other social media platforms for 13 years. And I have piddly little pet followings. The more real you are, the better. But also just watch people's videos. Like I have a lot of places I can improve my videos because I've been watching other people. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really stiff when I do this, or that's just kind of annoying when I do that too. How do I fix that? And so there's this really fun way of how do I become more Lisa? And the more Lisa I am, the better my TikTok videos are going to be. And so that's my kind of challenge for 2023 is like, how can I just be as comfortable in this arena as I am when I speak in front of a group of people, or I'm a weird person where I'm the most me in front of a group of people. So how can I translate that into a TikTok video? And that's what makes it fun. And it's working for me because it's fun. It's not work. I batch my videos. You'll notice I'm wearing the same clothes all the time because I do them all together. And I spend like an hour and a half a week on making the videos. And that's why it's working for me. So if you're feeling that this is a drudgery, hire it out or find somebody or find something else, because you want your work to be something you enjoy. Otherwise you'll never enjoy it. I had to learn that over the years as well.
That is a very, very good point. I don't see the point in us knowing what we know and enjoying the quality of what we know if we don't get to use that information in a way that we enjoy and that makes us feel good.
Yeah.
Because anybody can have a job that's a bit of a drudge, right? And it doesn't serve us well in our health.
Oh, I missed one really important point. When you do a TikTok video, look at your camera. Don't look at the screen, look at your camera. There's a huge difference in engagement when I look at the screen versus the camera. And a lot of new TikTokers will look at themselves in the screen, look up to your camera, always.
Yes, I have a hard time with that one too. I'm better at it than I was, but I still am not great. I would say that's probably one of the biggest learning curves you're going to have is to see this phone with this video as an extension of like it's a person. See it as it's a person. And that you're talking like just if you have the animation and the way you engage with other people when you're talking to that camera, it's going to come across supernatural. So you just got to see it as a person. But it takes some practice because you don't really you're used to more body language in front of you than a phone has.
And I whack my stand a lot. You'll see things move and I just leave it in. You also, TikTok loves fast talking. I've spent 13 years learning how to talk slower. And then the first comment somebody said is, you need to talk faster. I'm like, I get to talk my normal speed. And now I have no ability to talk slow. Excellent. I've lost it entirely.
Linda says, I admire your joy in putting yourself out there. I need to get much better at that. Again, it's
really hard. It's practice. It's really hard. I had huge resistance to TikTok, and there was a good reason for it because it was where I should go. The book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, I read probably 7 or 8 years ago and made a huge difference in my life because when I feel that resistance, it's like, oh, okay, that's actually where I need to go. And it's still, I deal with resistance every day. It doesn't go away. It's learning to have a relationship with those things that are out of your comfort zone or that you're finding really hard. And the only way through is to try.
Exactly. That is the most solid message that you can convey. Just keep trying. Just do it. Sooner or later, something's going to work the way you want it to work.
That's my entire business.
Yes.
I have no business skills. I have nothing. I just kept trying. That's it. I'm stubborn.
Well, and I think when I talk to many people who have had various successes in our industry, and you hear this with other industries as well, you hear this story over and over and over again. They tried these things. They did well over here, not so well over here. They did a little bit of this. That helped. This didn't, and then they get somewhere and then something finally really clicks and takes them from the constant sort of doing little bits and pieces and this, that, and the other thing to having a much more stable, sound, consistent type of business that suits them. Mm-hmm. And if we can do that, then we'll all have the success that we are seeking. Does anybody have any other questions before we wrap this up? You guys were great in the chat with your questions. I'm hoping that this inspired you in some fashion. Everybody's story is worthwhile, and wherever you are with your journey, you're on a certain what's the word I'm looking for? You're in a certain stage that hasn't gotten here yet, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get there. And so Jocelyn says, thank you. Great to see you. Barb says, thank you, Lisa, for sharing. Doggies. I don't have dogs. There are 2 dogs here, but I don't have dogs. And now they're going to make a noise. Stephanie says, thank you. All right. On that note, Mary Lisa says thank you. Amila says thank you. It definitely inspired me. Excellent. That's good to hear. All right. In that case, we shall wrap it up. Thank you so much, Lisa, for being open and sharing what you have done, because I think it's so helpful. And I'm so glad that you're having the success that you're having, because you're a great holistic nutritionist, and you know your stuff, and you deserve to be heard. So I'm really happy for you, and I'm really happy that you could share this with everyone, because I think it's just good for us to hear these sorts of stories. And so for everyone else, please have a great holiday season that's coming up, and we're going to wish us all a prosperous 2023. I know there's lots of doom and gloomers out there, but I don't think it's going to be that way. Myself personally, I don't feel it. I feel a positivity that's kind of bubbling under the surface of all the doom and gloom. So I think it's going to be a great 2023, and hopefully it will be for all of you with whatever business goals you have. So lots of thank yous, and so take care, everyone. Oh, and Melody says thank you. Congrats, Melody, you're here too. You probably know Melody too. Thank you for the timeline breakdown of Lisa's career. This is what I really wanted you to hear, because I think it's an important story. All right. And everybody's feeling the positivity. Excellent. All right, everyone. Have a good night and take care. Thank you so much, Lisa, for doing this.
Bye. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.